The character creation system in Daggerfall, and actually the entire game, gives you so much freedom and it's very easy to exploit that. But to me, Daggerfall really begins to shine when you put restrictions on yourself, both in terms of gameplay and the character creation, and make a interesting, challenging character with strengths and weaknesses and roleplay them accordingly. You can also think about the character creation system as almost a difficulty slider, where you can make the game very easy by creating a overpowered sort of warrior or wizard healer, but to me that gets boring very quickly. When making your character, you have a huge amount of variety and options to choose from, which is great for role-playing purposes. You can use this along with the attributes and skills to really paint a picture of an interesting character. You can make like a misanthropic dungeon dweller who takes damage from sunlight and has a phobia of humanoids. I think of this as almost art form, and I think the most entertaining way for me to show you guys what I mean is by doing a couple of example characters and show a bunch of really cool stuff you can do with them to make them more interesting, I guess. I'm really happy with this first one. It's a real challenge and fun and interesting. I struggled with the name, but I ended up with Grifter. His primary skill is going to be streetwise. He is kind of the life of the party in the city taverns, and also good at pacifying and making friends with the thieves and burglars and nightblades and assassins. Lockpicking, he's good at breaking and entering. Stealth, sneaking around. His major skills is going to be mercantile. He's a good haggler with the stuff he's stolen, and he's a good pickpocket as well. Even though this might be one of the most useless skills in the game, we don't think like that on this channel. And he has some fighting ability with a knife, so do short blade. Etiquette, he is kind of a smooth talker, this guy, even though he's more at home with bandits and street people. He can, when he has to, talk politely, and he is kind of good at climbing, like breaking into houses, burglary, climbing city walls at night, and dodging, running, of course. And he got some dirty fighting techniques as well, backstabbing and critical strike. So yeah, very weak, this guy. Kind of high intelligence, like street smarts. Kind of low willpower. He maybe falls victim to different kind of vices on the streets. Kind of high agility, I guess. Not so good endurance. Very high personality. He's yeah, you know, these kind of people, what would you call it, like, yeah, the charming, fun criminal types. So yeah, he's one of those. I'm thinking this guy, he's such a city person that he has a phobia for probably all of these, maybe not humanoids, but I guess animals. He hates animals, and he's never seen a Daedras or undead, so he would be goddamn terrified of those. I guess this guy, forbidden material, armor type, plate. This is not something he would use. Don't know about. Yeah, and this guy would not be able to use magic, so we'll do unable to use magic in darkness and unable to use magic in daylight. So and when you're making a character that is unable to use magic, you can also add this one, inability to regen spell points. And these three are quite big disadvantages, so they give you a lot of leeway and room to add advantages or a big hit point gain per level, while still have a quite easy skill advancement for the class. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to make a real physical specimen, like a warrior that is unable to use magic. You can choose these ones and then pour everything into physical capabilities, sort of like I did with the Dark Knight. I would really recommend that, actually, to play Daggerfall without magic and just solve everything with the physical capabilities, sneaking and climbing and lockpicking or whatever. It's really cool. Yeah, and for the advantages, I'll give him acute hearing. He's a perceptive guy, and that's basically hearing stuff farther away. Adrenaline rush is combat buffs when you're on low HP. I think this guy would be the opposite. He would panic when he's on low HP and get worse, so we'll not give him that. Athleticism is basically you retain stamina better when you're climbing and swimming and running, and he's not gonna get that either. Bonus to hit humanoid I think can make sense for him, and expertise in short blade. And for me, there's no other that really sticks out as far as role-playing goes. So just, you see, this is still in the bottom here, so it's a good problem to have. You can just add whatever advantages you think makes sense, or add hit points. Yeah, you see, yeah, it starts to move now. So yeah, it's a good problem to have. You can just add whatever you like. Yeah, like I said, I'm so happy about this character. Everything makes sense and fits together. I see that kind of beauty in this, like if it's an art form to create a character, I think this is beautiful. And it's going to be a great challenge to play this guy and really fun. I think he would be most at home skulking around in towns and burglarizing homes. And yeah, and a really cool thing you would do with this character is borrow a strategy from the Mad Genius. If you guys haven't seen that playthrough, I really recommend it. I play as a language-based character, and the only thing he can do basically is he can't fight and can't use magic. So I figure out after a while that he can just rest out in the wilderness and pacify the creatures that come along, and then use them to fight other creatures or humanoids, and it's so fun. And I think since this guy is also a criminal, he would he would just set up camp outside of town somewhere, maybe along a road, and pacify any of the Nightblades or assassins or burglars or thieves that corresponds to this streetwise skill, and then just have that snowball and gather more and more. Yeah, sort of become like a bandit leader and ambushing people. If you want to focus more on that, you might want to be a really mean, dirty fighting bastard and move backstabbing up a bit to major or primary, because it gives you so many opportunities to backstab when the other creatures are fighting each other. So yeah, I think this character would be so much fun, so try it out and let me know what you think. And to all you Daggerfall veterans out there, I'm really interested in hearing like what has been the most entertaining or fun, interesting character that you've created. Let us know in the comment section. I'd really like this video to be like a community get together and chat about interesting, fun characters. Next up, I'm gonna do something a little bit easier for you guys who might be newer to Daggerfall. And for that, I think being tanky is probably the most important thing. In Sweden we even have a saying that det är tanken som räknas, which of course means it's the tank that counts. I'm gonna do a normal paladin, but still make him lore friendly and not too overpowered. And I'm also gonna do like an interesting shadow counterpart to him, which I'm gonna call a corrupted paladin. They're both going to be experts in blunt weapons, but while the normal paladin uses restoration for his healing and buffs, the corrupted paladin will use the School of Destruction to steal attributes and health from his opponents. I would also limit myself with this to only the spells that concerns draining and stealing of attributes and health, and not use it to like cast fireballs and stuff like that. Only, what would you call it, like a inverted version of restoration with corrupted healing and buffing. And instead of being trained in etiquette like the high noble paladin, the corrupted paladin is more interested in Daedras and speaking their language. By the way, this is why I really love the language skills of Daggerfall. They sort of help you set the alignment of the character and define their personality. For the major skills, I'm thinking the corrupted paladin favors the brutality of axes and also doesn't shy away from dirty fighting in backstabbing, while the normal paladin favors long blades and more defensive skills. For the minor skills, it's going to be pretty similar. They both rely heavily on physical skills to get around in the world. They're not mages, so they can't use like water walking or flying and levitating everywhere. The corrupted paladin is skipping medical skill altogether. He thinks he will just steal whatever health he needs from others. And for the advantages, I think it's going to be pretty similar. Athleticism and expertise in blunt weapons. And this increased magery, it's how many spell points you get from your intelligence. So normally it's really good to take 3x for this to get maximum, but I think it suits them better for role-playing purposes to have a not as big mana pool as say a wizard or a mage. So I think 2x is fine. Maybe you could... For some reason I think the corrupted paladin might have it worse, so maybe 1.5 or something for him if you want. And another big difference is that the normal paladin is a vanquisher of the dark evils of the world, so he will have a bonus to hit undead, or you could take bonus to hit Daedras as well, something like that. And while the corrupted paladin, I guess, is a vanquisher of humans, so that's a difference as well. A cool thing you would do with these guys is I think the normal paladin would join some kind of knightly order, and the corrupted paladin would obviously join the Dark Brotherhood. For the disadvantages, I don't know if there's anyone that really sticks out to me as far as role-playing goes, but I guess you could go like damage from holy places for the corrupted paladin, or maybe darkness-powered magery that he can't use magic in daylight, something like that. Yeah, just play around with this, I guess. Try to find some disadvantages that you think suits them. And remember to keep the hit point gain per level high, since these guys are supposed to be tanky. As far as attributes, just make these guys high in strength and endurance, and you'll be fine. Personally, I don't like to go too low in like intelligence and willpower for role-playing purposes, even if it's not very useful for a character. For some reason I like the normal paladin to be more defensive and have higher endurance, and the corrupted one, I like him to be more like reckless and attack oriented with higher strength and less endurance. And also he could give two shits about personalities. I guess you could go as low as you want for that one. But I would keep the personality kind of high on the normal paladin. Yeah, I think one of these guys could be a really good introduction to Daggerfall, and a good mix of like a challenging roleplay, but still not too hard. I'm planning on making more videos on this topic, on how to get the most fun and interesting experience when playing Daggerfall, because I think the game has so much potential. The next one is probably gonna be about gameplay and what to think about when you're actually playing the game. So if you like this, please subscribe and hit the little notification button so you don't miss out. Imagine yourself being in a dungeon and you hear this pleasant voice calling you, and you start following it into some dark corridor in a sort of dreamlike state, and your friends are like in the background screaming, "Don't listen to it! It's a shadow whisperer!" I imagine this being like a mix between a Nightblade and the Mad Genius. That invisible trickster in the shadows combined with great language skills, almost hypnotizing. I think he would have like illusion spells on all the time, sort of a shadow or a chameleon, and be like an unseen voice, constantly chattering and whispering, trying to influence and manipulate his surroundings with etiquette and streetwise, which is perfect because that's how these skills work. They're on passively all the time, trying to pacify any surrounding enemies that correspond to that specific language skill. Then backstabbing, because you would get so many opportunities. First off, you can just sneak up on enemies and backstab them, and also when they're fighting, when you have manipulated them into fighting, you can just backstab whoever you want to lose. And if that wasn't immoral enough, you can just of course also go up and backstab whoever you've pacified, who's just standing there. And thaumaturgy is basically the mind control school of magic. You have all the charm and pacify undeads and pacify Daedras and even animals. And stealth, obviously, since this guy is a like a silent, unseen. The only thing you notice about this guy is his voice in the darkness. And after you heard his voice for a while, you have like a knife in your neck, or you're doing his bidding. Yeah, I think these 6 skills actually are pretty interchangeable. It depends on what you want to prioritize. I think you can just switch these around as you like. For the minor skills, critical strike, dodging, and lockpicking, he can... this is one I also would like to have higher, because it adds to that scary thing where he can like always get you. You can't lock him out or anything. Short blade, I don't want to give him I guess you could give him destruction, maybe some like damage over time, poison thing. If there was like alchemy and poison making in this game, that would be really high for this guy as well. Just darting out of the shadows with a poisoned knife, and then back, waiting for you to die. So I guess you could go destruction. I'm just gonna go medical. It's my go-to filler. Yeah, I guess running he's gonna be pretty fast as well. And for the advantages, I chose bonus to hit humanoid. This is pretty obvious. This guy would probably be some kind of assassin as well, or really good at it. And acute hearing, obviously. Increased magery, I don't want to give him 3x. This is not a specialized wizard, but 2x I think is fine. Regenerate health in darkness, I think this suits this guy perfectly. He doesn't want to fight like an open fight, so if he gets injured, he can just go back to his comfort zone in the darkness and just stay there and be cozy and invisible and regenerate. Expertise in short blade. Yeah, I see this guy definitely as a short blade kind of character. Disadvantages. Darkness powered magery. I see him as having lower magic ability in daylight. Forbidden armor type plate. No like heavy knight warrior equipment for this guy. Axes or blunt weapons. And I chose low tolerance to fire and shock. I think fire because it would be kind of it's a light element, so I think it would be like illuminating him, and he wouldn't like that. And the same kind of thing with electricity or shock, so I think that makes sense. Yeah, I'm so happy about this guy. I think of all the characters I've made, I have the strongest urge to play this guy. It's like he's almost not really human, more like a fairy tale creature that you warn children about. He's like, don't listen to it. Or we have it in Sweden called skogsrå, which is a female creature in the forest. And it's like a beautiful woman, and then the woodsman would like see her and follow her deeper and deeper into the forest, and then yeah, they would like get killed or eaten or something. So I get that kind of feeling about this guy, like a fairy tale, scary, manipulating creature. So try it out, tell me what you think. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, you probably like my entire channel. It's basically dedicated to the weird, interesting and unique and difficult and gimped characters of the RPG world, and also to purist gameplay without reloading or save scumming or exploiting or power gaming. So check it out.